Good afternoon. I'm 14 First Alert meteorologist Arden Gregory, and we've got a lot to talk about today, starting with the fact that tomorrow is a First Alert weather day. We added this alert at the end of last week when it became clearer that Tuesday was going to be a day of concern for two different reasons. First, we're going to have a few scattered storms on Tuesday, and there's the possibility that some of those could be strong or even severe, posing a damaging wind threat, along with an isolated risk of hail, flooding, and even a tornado. And when it's not storming on Tuesday, and again, that storm chance will be scattered. Not everyone will see that rain. When and where it's not storming on Tuesday, everyone is going to be dangerously hot with a heat index as high as 105 to 112. I do want to get the Facebook Live video pulled up here so that I can see if you have any questions as we go along here. Before we dig into too many details on that alert day, I do want to talk about the air quality alert that we have today. So let me get that pulled up for you here. So again, tomorrow the alert is for heat as well as for storms. But today, well, if this will cooperate, today we're also on this air quality alert. So let's get that to pull up for us here. There we go. All right, we're having some technical struggles today. Here we go. So today there's this air quality alert. Now, our air is not considered unhealthy. For most of us, this isn't really going to be a concern. But if you or a loved one are really sensitive to changes in air quality, if you have something like asthma, heart or lung disease, COPD, things like that, you really need to take it easy today and watch for coughing or shortness of breath. The reason our air quality is a concern today, this is again not wanting to move forward. There we go. The reason our air quality is a concern today is the same reason it's been a concern off to our north for several days now. This Canadian wildfire smoke. They have wildfires here in southern Canada, and the smoke is blowing down across the Great Lakes. So several states across the Great Lakes area down to around Chicago, they've been on alert for air quality since last week. Now that wind is dipping far enough south that it's starting to pull some of that smoke into Illinois and Indiana too. So we have this air quality alert. This is just not wanting to move forward for me. There we go. So we have this air quality alert that stretches down into the tri-state and goes until 11 p.m. So again, for most of us, that's not really a health concern, but just for that sensitive groups, this air quality might be considered unhealthy. And again, that's because of this wildfire smoke. We have partly cloudy skies overhead, but even where we're getting some sunshine in, the sky may still have kind of a hazy look to it because of that wildfire smoke as well. So not exactly seeing blue skies out there today. We've got a couple of very spotty showers out in Saline and then southern Gallatin and western Union counties, and one little shower right there near the intersection of I-69 and I-64, Elberfeld kind of area there. I mean, you can barely even see it. Little bitty dot of rain there. Most of the tri-state is dry, and that's going to be the trend for the rest of the day today. I wouldn't rule out a stray sprinkle here or there, but we'll most likely stay dry through the rest of today and overnight tonight as well. Tomorrow, that's when we're on alert for this chance of storms. I think tomorrow will probably start out dry very first thing in the morning, but then as this cold front comes down from the north, we could start to see some spotty showers and storms, mainly north of I-64. Sometime Tuesday morning, like 7, 8, 9 a.m.-ish. Then that rain kind of starts to taper off, and I think the middle part of the day will most likely be dry, just very hot. Then we see more scattered storms developing kind of along this cold front Tuesday afternoon and evening. Again, this rain will be scattered. Not everyone is going to get a thunderstorm on Tuesday, but any thunderstorms that develop would have the potential of becoming strong or maybe even severe. Then the last of that rain will push off to our south-southeast Tuesday night. The skies will then clear overnight Tuesday night, and by Wednesday, much quieter weather will take over. And notice those little blue arrows. Cooler, drier air will be coming in from the north. Our weather overall will be much more comfortable by Wednesday. Something we'll have to watch though If the wind is coming from the north, depending on how those wildfires are playing out in Canada, that might again pull some wildfire smoke down into the tri-state. Not a guarantee, but certainly something we're monitoring, so we'll be keeping a close eye on the air quality as we go through the middle of next week as well. And we're already on alert for that wildfire smoke today. As for our risk of severe weather, today all the storms are off to our north-northwest. As this whole system starts to push down to the southeast, you'll notice the storm chances slide primarily east of the tri-state. A lot of this is going to just kind of pass to our northeast. The greatest risk of severe weather tomorrow stretches from kind of central Kentucky back into parts of Appalachia and Ohio, West Virginia, and then on into Pennsylvania and places like that. Here at home, we're kind of on the tail end of the area outlooked for possible severe weather. We are included in a level 2 risk for scattered severe storms. So widespread severe weather is not expected tomorrow. We're not even going to get widespread rain tomorrow. The rain in general will be kind of scattered, but with that, any thunderstorms that develop would have the potential to be strong or even severe, and they may be capable of producing any of these hazards. Damaging wind gusts are the most likely threat. You'll notice we're at a level 2 to level 3 risk for damaging winds across much of the tri-state. Next greatest threat would be hail. Most of us are sitting at a level 2 risk for possible hail, but some heavy rain and flooding and even an isolated tornado can't be ruled out. We're at a level 1 risk for flooding and tornadoes. So level 1 risk for flooding and tornadoes, level 2 risk for hail, up to a level 3 risk in some parts of the tri-state for damaging winds. So winds are the most likely concern with any thunderstorms that develop tomorrow, but really any of these hazards may be possible depending on how exactly the storms develop and play out. The other part of the alert is going to be the temperatures, right? And it's plenty hot out there already today. We're sitting in the upper 80s to low 90s right now. It's 88 in Newburgh and Owensboro, 91 right now in Evansville. When you factor in the humidity, it feels like the upper 90s to even low triple digits. Evansville with a heat index of 98 right now. Henderson feels like 101. Owensboro feeling like 103 right now. So keep that in mind. If you're going to be out and about, Vandenberg County Fair started today. A lot of folks are going to be outside. You need to drink lots of water and dress appropriately for the weather because it is going to be hot out there this afternoon. Even as the sun begins to set, it's still going to be very warm and muggy even into the evening and overnight hours. Our temperatures will only fall back into the mid-70s tonight under partly cloudy skies. Then tomorrow, we've got that alert partially for that chance for some scattered storms, primarily in the afternoon, but maybe an isolated storm in the morning too on the northern end of the tri-state. But in addition to that chance of storms, tomorrow is going to be hot. Highs are going to climb into the low to maybe even mid-90s in some locations. So we're talking 2 or 3 degrees hotter than it already is today. And in addition to the heat, it will still be very humid. And when you factor that in, the heat index tomorrow from about the middle of the day through the afternoon is going to be well into the triple digits and could peak as high as 105 to 112. So that is up into that danger zone where it is going to be dangerously hot out there tomorrow afternoon. For that reason, there is an extreme heat warning in effect for most of the tri-state from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. So from about the middle of the day tomorrow until we get into the evening hours, right through the hottest part of the day there, Tuesday afternoon. We are on alert as we have an extreme heat warning in effect. So again, tomorrow that alert, twofold. One for the heat, that extreme heat warning, that potential for triple digit dangerous heat index values. The only thing that might cool you down is if you get some rain, but we're on alert then too because we have that chance for some scattered rain and thunderstorms, and some of those thunderstorms have the potential to become strong or even severe. The primary concern being damaging wind gusts, but hail, flooding, even a tornado can't be totally ruled out. Now, once this cold front bringing us those storms pushes through, it's really going to pack a punch to our temperatures. We drop about 10 degrees. So we go from highs in the low to mid 90s and a heat index well into the triple digits on Tuesday to Wednesday. We're looking at highs in the low to mid 80s and much lower humidity too. So really our weather is going to be about as comfortable as you can ask for late July in the tri-state. Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Great news for the end of the Vanderburgh County Fair there. The whole back half of the fair looks like it's going to have great weather. The only thing we'll have to monitor is as that cold front passes through and pulls that cooler, drier air down from the north, depending on the exact path that that air is taking, it could pick up some of that wildfire smoke from Canada. So we'll keep an eye on that. We may be on alert for air quality again Wednesday or Thursday. I'm thinking that the exact path that wind is going to take, it maybe won't be too bad, but we'll definitely keep a very close eye on our air quality next week, as that cool, dry air is going to make for really comfortable weather, great weather to be outside in. I hope that we don't have to worry about the air quality when we're getting out and enjoying that nicer weather. A warm front swings through, and with that we could maybe see an isolated chance of rain Friday and or Saturday. I'm not totally convinced that we'll get any kind of widespread rain on either day, but an isolated shower or storm possible both days. And with that we also start to see this shift back to hotter weather, with highs climbing into the mid to upper 80s on Saturday. Then by the start of next week we're back into the low 90s again. Let's check in on the comments here. Good afternoon, Cheyenne, Ricky, Laura, Denise, Carol, and Lucille. Appreciate you guys tuning in. If you need to get out and mow your grass today, aside from the fact that it's hot, doesn't seem like too bad of a day to get out there. I would not recommend it tomorrow. Like I said, it's not going to be a total washout. Much of the day will be dry, and even when we get rain, it'll be scattered. So there are some of you that may go the whole day Tuesday and get little to no rain. Others could end up with severe thunderstorms. It's just going to be luck of the draw. But even if you stay dry on Tuesday, it's going to be dangerously hot out there. So if you can avoid it, I would say no go on mowing the grass on Tuesday. Wait one more day, because Wednesday and Thursday, as long as the air quality holds up okay, it's going to be much nicer weather to be outside working in the yard. Let's take this back for a minute, put this on rewind. I do want to go back to this day in history, July 20th, 1930. We're going way back today. On July 20th, 1930, in Evansville, this was the second of 3 consecutive days with a record-setting high temperature of 103 degrees. 103 is 15 degrees above normal for mid to late July, and that little stretch of 3 days in a row of 15 degrees above normal, that really helped that July become the 5th warmest on record. And we've talked about this before. Triple digits is really pretty rare for us in this part of the country. This summer and last summer, so far we haven't hit the triple digits. We did it once in 2024 at the end of August. We did it once in 2023 at the end of July. And we had back-to-back days in 2022 right after the 4th of July. We had a triple digit temperatures there on the 5th and the 6th. But really, it's pretty rare around here. Looking at the past 128 years, only 46 of them have included even one 100-degree day. The earliest we've ever hit 100 degrees is June 7th. The latest is September 14th. Imagine being middle of September and it's still 100 degrees outside. By that time, I'm looking ahead to pumpkins and fall. I don't want to be talking 100 degrees in mid-September, but it has happened. On average, if we were going to hit 100 degrees, which not every year does, on average it would happen between today and August 6th. That is, on average, the window in which we would get a 100-degree day. When you look at the breakdown of what conditions provide these 100-degree days, so we've hit 173 times since we started keeping records in 1897, and what all of those have in common is lower humidity, lighter winds, and full sunshine. So you have to basically be baking in a dry heat to get to 100 degrees. The lower humidity, That's usually our hang up. Anybody who has spent any time in the tri-state this summer knows that our heat is usually a humid one, right? That's why we talk so much about, well, the temperature will be this, but it'll actually feel like this because of the humidity. That humidity also really limits how high your temperature can get. Just that water content in the air makes it that much harder to really heat it up that far. It makes it harder on your body, but the air just really struggles. That's why you see them hit 100 degrees all the time out in the desert, places like Nevada, Arizona. They're in the triple digits all summer because it's this desert heat, right? So they get very, very hot during the day and then much cooler at night as well because of that dry desert air. So it's rare for us to have these conditions where we can get into the triple digits because around here a dry heat is just very uncommon. One thing you'll notice when you break down the 100-degree days by decade, one thing that really stands out is by far most of our 100-degree days happened in the 30s. It really stands out as having, more than double the number of 100-degree days than any other decade has had. And history, those with an interest in history will probably remember something the 30s is known for, and that's the Dust Bowl. Right? We had this really intense drought along with some bad farming practices that led to just this intense issue with farming and things like that, just this insane, intense drought. And part of the reason they called it the Dust Bowl is you had dust storms and things going on all the time because there was no vegetation left. All of the grass and plants and whatnot that would normally be there had all dried up and died. And so you just had this barren land and just dust sweeping across it. And so think of things like corn sweat, we sometimes talk about during the summer, right? When you've got that corn growing, all the moisture content within those plants, it can actually cause the humidity to be higher in areas that are surrounded by things like cornfields. Well, when all of the plants and whatnot are dried up, you don't have that humidity being produced. And so you had this extreme drought, this very dry conditions all across much of the country. And that also meant less humidity in the air too. And so we had these very, very hot, dry summers, dry being the important part there. And so we were able to get into the triple digits so many times during the 30s. And 1930 was the day in history we were just looking at where they had that stretch of 3 days of 103 degrees. The years that had the most 100-degree days, 1936 wins by a landslide, 22 days. And they had a stretch of, it was like nearly 2 weeks straight in July that year where they were over 100 degrees for their highs every single day. It was insane. Next up would be 1930. That's where we get today's day in weather history. And then one that many of you will bring up in recent memory is 2012. 2012 was a brutal summer here in the tri-state, and that's next in line for the most 100-degree days. So it's very rare for us to get our actual temperature up to 100. Heat index, though, we do that all the time because of that humidity. Here recently, we've been in a little bit of a heat wave, not terribly abnormally hot for July. Low 90s is certainly not unheard of for us here during the month of July, but we have hit the 90s every single day for a week now. From last Tuesday until today, we hit the 90s again. Tomorrow, I think, will probably end up being the peak of that heat wave, the hottest day out of these whole 7 days with those highs in the 90s. Then that cold front moves through and it'll cool off for the middle and end of next week. We've had rain this July, but it's been very scattered. So I know many of you have had these downpours from thunderstorms where you've picked up a couple inches of rain in one night. Well, none of those downpours have gone over the Evansville Regional Airport. So while I've had reports of other folks getting a couple inches of rain in one day, the official rainfall total for Evansville is only about 3/4 of an inch. So we are running 2 inches short on rain for the month and 3 inches short on the year. Our average temperature is still running a little more than 2 degrees above normal just because our highs have been running just a couple degrees warmer than that average high of 89. But also part of what throws that off is our lows. Our average low this time of year is about 69, and instead we've had a lot of days where our lows only got into the low to mid 70s. So that also brings up that average temperature. We're going to pull that average down a little bit over the next few days. Tomorrow, very hot, dangerously hot with that heat index well into the triple digits. We've got that chance of storms as a cold front sweeps through. Behind that cold front will actually be below average with highs in the lower 80s and lows down into the 60s, maybe even flirting with the 50s a couple of nights here at the end of the week. But then we start to warm things back up again, and by early next week, we're right back into the 90s. The extended outlook for the end of this month does show a trend back toward below average precipitation, so drier weather taking over, but also above average temperatures. In fact, when you look at the hazards outlook, we're right on the eastern edge of a heat wave that affects basically from us all the way back into the plains, where you have this slight risk of extreme heat from the end of this month into the start of August. So that's something we will be monitoring very closely there. So here's your 7-day forecast. Again, tomorrow we're on alert for two different things. There is a chance for scattered storms, some of which may be severe, capable of producing damaging wind gusts. That's the primary threat, but maybe even some isolated flooding, hail, or even a brief tornado. When and where it's not storming, tomorrow is going to be dangerously hot with a heat index as high as 105 to 112 possible. So keep that in mind tomorrow. It's either going to be dangerously hot or it's going to be storming. And those might be your only two choices on Tuesday. Once that cold front swings through, really pleasant weather Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Gorgeous end of the week. The only fly in the ointment here is that wind from the north that's bringing in this cooler, drier, more comfortable air may also pull some of that wildfire smoke into the tri-state. So we'll be monitoring that closely. We'll let you know if the air quality becomes a concern for the middle and end of this week. Then our wind direction shifts back around from the south. As we're making that transition, we could maybe get an isolated shower or storm Friday, Saturday. Then that hotter, more humid air starts to take back over with highs in the lower 90s by Sunday and Monday. And then remember, in that outlook from Tuesday through the rest of the week, it does show a trend toward below average precipitation, above average temperatures, maybe even a slight risk for a dangerous heat. So we could be looking at another stretch of hotter, drier weather as we get into next week. But you know what? It's only Monday. We're not going to worry about next week yet. Checking in on the comments here. Hello, Thomas. David says Boone Vegas is hot. I bet it is. Yeah, the entire tri-state is burning up right now. And good afternoon to you as well, Nancy Perry. I'm not seeing any other questions in the comments, so I'm going to wrap this up. Chief Meteorologist Jeff Lyons will have an updated look at your forecast on 14 News tonight at 4, 5, 6, and 10, and he'll do another streaming show here tonight at 9, so I hope you'll join him for that. Everybody make sure you've got your 14 First Alert app with the alerts turned on, as we will have that chance for some scattered severe weather tomorrow, and everybody drink lots of water and stay cool.